Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, Diligent, PwC, Center for Audit Quality, the Conference Board, and Corporate Board Member. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, Donnelly Financial Solutions, and the Society for Corporate Governance.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, the CEO of Boardroom Resources and the co-founder and editor-at-large of Corporate Board Member magazine. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the show. Today we're going to be talking about evaluating your compensation consultant. And joining me is somebody that knows just a little bit about that topic. And please welcome Susan O'Donnell, who's a partner with Meridian Compensation Partners. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks, TK.
So, Susan, you and I have known each other for a long time. You're obviously a very experienced and respected compensation consultant, but I'm going to ask you to sort of put that talent aside, okay? And I want you to put on and play the role, put on the hat of a director and play the role of somebody on the compensation committee. And my question may sound simple, but I know the answer isn't that simple. But what factors should comp committees be using in evaluating their existing relationship or even in choosing a compensation consultant in the beginning?
Sure. I'd love to put on that hat of being a board member for a moment. And I think the first thing that I would think about may sound obvious, and that's independence. But what I'm thinking about goes beyond just satisfying the SEC requirements for independence. To me, if you have a consultant, you really want to know that they individually have the mindset and the perspective of providing independent advice and counsel to you. And so what does that mean? I mean, that means being objective at all times, maintaining that objectivity, being willing to challenge the status quo or bring up topics that may be a little bit challenging or difficult for people to be thinking about, and just, again, maintaining that level of objectivity and raising some of those issues. The other part, as a committee or board member, I would think about is we often engage the consultant directly, so the consultant reports to the compensation committee, but we also expect them to work with management, put together proposals, review certain information, and bring that to the committee. And when we do that, we expect that that consultant is also going to be maintaining an independent perspective, recognizing that they're representing the directors, the committee, and in many regards, shareholders. And so when they're working together, that perspective is very important for them to bring. And we want to know that they are not having different conversations and delivering different messages to management than they are to the committee. There should be no surprises when we all come together at an all-important, committee meeting. And, at the end of the day, the way I like to look at it is we all have common objectives. We want the company to be successful. We want to deliver shareholder value to our firm. We want to attract and retain the best talent, but we may have all different perspectives, and that's okay. That's what we want to get out there, and good governance is more about engaging in those discussions, bringing out different perspectives, and then resulting in the best decision for the company.
May seem like an odd question, but doesn't a compensation committee want their consultant to be pushing back, and not only to you maybe, but also to management? Is that a perspective that when you have your director's hat on that you would want to see, that somebody has the moxie to sort of stand up when they think something's being done incorrectly?
Yeah, I think there's a delicate balance to that. Pushback could be perceived as a little strong, but I do think it's about sharing perspective and bringing up alternatives. If the client or the board is going in a direction that you may feel could have unintended consequences, whether it is from a business perspective, retaining talent, or shareholder perspective, it is our duty, it's our role, it's why they engage us, is to bring those issues up. Now, do you go so far as to say you have to do this one thing and this is our way or the highway? Certainly that's way over the responsibility, because the committee and the board and the company ultimately has the responsibility for making that decision. But what we want to do is bring the most information and perspectives the benefit of our experience working and getting those other perspectives to the situation, so that if they do decide to do something that maybe you might want to push back on a little bit, we're thinking about it ahead of time and being very strategic about not only what they're doing, but maybe how they disclose it, so they get the benefit of doing what they want to do, but also doing it in the best way.
So when I served on a board many years ago, it was a bank board, and I know that that's sort of your specialty in the industry is banking or financial services. And I remember that our comp committee really wanted somebody that understood banking from hiring, from retaining key personnel, and then for retirement stuff. So that meant that we were really trying to do some serious due diligence to make sure that we found the right person. And do you have any advice for people that are in those situations that want to find somebody that knows their industry and knows those things, of what questions to ask or process to take to make sure that they're doing proper due diligence?
I agree. I think that's very important. And a lot of times companies will go out looking for a consultant and they will use a proposal process. And the consultants will have the opportunity to put all their best forward in the proposal. But if you're looking for a relationship with an advisor, I think there's no way around really having a very effective interview process. And by that I mean more than just inviting them to come and present. If they just come and present to you, you haven't gained anything more than a summarized visual view of their proposal. What I think is more effective is really engaging them to find out, what do they know about your company? What do they know about your industry? Now they may not know everything, so obviously they're opining on what they know at the moment, but what are their views and perspectives? But more importantly, how are they going to work with you? Ask the questions that I like to look at it as you're testing them out. You're seeing what it's like to work with them, you're seeing what it's like to engage with them. If it's a team approach, you're seeing how the team of consultants work together, and that's the best way to see the fit, in my view. Now, it certainly doesn't necessarily mean and so you can ask those questions. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the end of the process. As you hire your consultants, I think it's critical that you have ongoing discussions about is that relationship working? Are there things that could be improved both ways in terms of the committee, what we expect from the consultant, but also from the consultant, what may or may not be working from the committee's perspective. And so I like to call those not only consultant meetings, but relationship meetings, thinking not only about the today and what we're doing, but the future and what would work effectively, for them.
So were you ever in your career asked the question of, which I asked in the due diligence one time, was what was the last renewal that you didn't win, and what were the reasons that you weren't chosen to stay on? Were you ever asked that question?
Have we ever been asked the question, do we know why we weren't hired at a...
If you had a relationship with a company and they didn't renew it with you, they went with someone else, and it wasn't because they had automatic rotation or anything, and were you ever asked that question as part of due diligence?
Trying to think. I mean, certainly there's some perspectives out there that for good governance you need to rotate consultants, and so I don't think that's necessarily the true case or not. I have some clients I've had for 15 years, which is a different challenge. You want to stay fresh and current with them. So there is that concept of we need to roll off in good governance. Another time it could be related to a change in a committee chair, and that committee chair or a change in leadership comes in and wants to use that as an opportunity for refreshment.
Or has a relationship with another.
But then I would say we've been even on the flip side, had been the recipient of some of the things that we can talk about, but some of the things where if the consultant wasn't being proactive enough and giving them advice and they kind of ran into a sticky situation, a lot of times that's when boards will start to say we do need to look into that relationship. And I have a number of, not my clients, but in the market I'm hearing a lot of those going on right now. So I think there's that opportunity for both sides, the boards themselves to think, are we getting the kind of quality advice and counsel that we need? But for the consultants as well to say, are we keeping this fresh? Are we delivering what we should be doing? And are we proactive enough in what the advice and counsel we're giving the clients?
Well, that relationship when it works is so valuable. And I appreciate you taking the time to come in and taking off your consulting hat and putting on the director's hat. I think your advice was very sound. So again, I wanted to thank you, Susan, for joining.
Anytime, TK.
That concludes this edition of Inside America's Boardroom. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take another look at a critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, Diligent, PwC, Center for Audit Quality, the Conference Board, and Corporate Board Member. Along with content contributors, Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, Donnelly Financial Solutions, and the Society for Corporate Governance.